Hi everybody, I'm Steve Collins, and welcome to another Copiah County, Hazlehurst, Mississippi Black History Month. And did you know, on this day, August 8th, back in 1967, four black men ran for public office in Copiah County, Hazlehurst, Mississippi. The four men were John L. Chase Senior, Ellis Blackwell, Robert Watson, and Houston Collins Sr. John L. Chase Sr. ran for District 1 Supervisor. Ellis Blackwell ran for District 1 Justice of the Peace Post 1. Robert Watson ran for District 1 Justice of the Peace Post 2. And Houston Collins Sr. ran for District 1 Constable. A few years prior to the election, voters registration was in full swing, and the NAACP, along with other organizations, worked really hard to get black people registered to vote.
We were in the process of doing voters registration, and all of us young kids, say from 14 to 18, we were the one out helping get the elderly people registered.
Well, all I know is they was trying to tell us, just kind of keep us from voting. They want to know how many bubbles and bar soap and trying to tell us, want us to see how much education we had to keep from voting, and anything they could do to keep us from disqualify us. Because at that time, you couldn't vote for nobody. If you were black, if you were white, you were right. You black, you get back. You brown, you stick around. But you could get registered, be sent to Vietnam, and get shot at like a dog. But when you got back here, you couldn't vote for nobody. So you really dying, sacrifice yourself for somebody else's country. Because it wasn't your country if you can't vote.
There was also a need for law enforcement changes in Copiah County, Hazlehurst, Mississippi. Law enforcement was primarily ran by whites, from the mayor's office, sheriff's department, city aldermen, constables, you name it.
When they wouldn't give us what we wanted a black policeman, we wanted them to be able to arrest anybody, black or white. But they didn't want us to have, they didn't want us to, no, you can't arrest no white. You can arrest a black, and if you get a white, you hold him there till a white policeman comes. It's nope, want the same right as any other police guy. So they didn't want to do it, so we called a boycott.
I was in that march in '67 when they marched to boycott the town.
The boycott was another part of togetherness. We were doing something to better ourselves, bring the community together, to do things that were going to better the future.
I tell you, it was a great day that time for the black, because we was just, couldn't do nothing hardly. Didn't have no, when they go to town for something, they'd hand you this food out the window, not come in and sit down and eat where they were.
During the August 8, 1967 election, with 1,284 votes, Ellis Blackwell was defeated by W.D. Nelson with 2,024 votes. Robert Watson, with 1,205 votes, was defeated by Edwin Wright with 1,819 votes. But on the other hand, Chase and Collins led the ticket, receiving enough votes to put them in the runoff. Chase received 1,119 votes, and George Mark received 994. Collins received 1,020 votes, and Harold Boone received 649. And for the first time since Reconstruction, two white candidates in Copiah County will face black opponents in the second primary. The second primary was held August 29th of 1967. Incumbent George Mark Sr. was re-elected as Supervisor of District 1, receiving 2,083 votes, and John L. Chase Sr. receiving 1,350 votes. Harold Boone was elected Constable of District 1, receiving 2,081 votes, and Houston Collins Sr. receiving 1,298 votes.
We shall overcome.
God had brought us from being ditch diggers to educators and legislators.
We shall.
God had brought us from dragging cotton sacks to come.
I do believe that we shall overcome someday.
Back in January 17th of 2000, Hazlehurst held its first annual Day of Unity celebration in honor of Dr. Martin Luther King. I had the honor and the privilege to interview Mr. John L. Chase Senior. He, along with Mr. Robert Stewart, were grand marshals in this historical event.
This day is long waiting. It's overdue. The time have come for us to get together and to work together and to stay together. Dr. Martin Luther King died that we may all be free, and it's time for all us to be free together. That means white, black, polka dot, young, old, grill, or gray. It's time for us all to work together and let bygones be bygones and work together.
Although Chase, Blackwell, Watson, and Collins lost the election back in 1967, it sparked a new beginning for blacks to run for public office in Hazlehurst and Copiah County. Shortly after the boycott began, May 5th, 1967, Matthew Gary was the first black to be hired by the Hazlehurst Police Department as a patrolman. Charles Smith was the second to be hired, but also went on to become the first black chief of police to serve in the city of Hazlehurst. November 14th of that same year, a special election was held to fill the unexpired term of city alderman, made vacant by the death of O.O. Hodges. Only two candidates qualified to have their name on the ballot: Claude Thetford, an accounts payable supervisor for the Hazlehurst Processing Division of Sanderson's Farm, and Timothy Winston, manager of the House of People's Funeral Home on Monticello Street. Thetford went on to win with a vote of 830, to Winston receiving 411 votes. 11 years later, in 1978, Ferry Senior was among the first predominant black class of cadets to graduate from the academy and become a Mississippi Highway Patrol officer. We caught up with Mr. Ferry Senior by way of telephone, and this is what he had to say. So, what inspired you to be a Mississippi Highway Patrolman? How all that come about?
I just like the fast cars, and they look so good. And we used to see them come, and we would always just get in a huddle. When they say the highway patrol is coming, the highway patrol is coming, everybody would stop what they're doing and they start looking a certain way to see it. It was the top of the game, the limelight.
So, when did you become a highway patrolman?
1978. I applied in 1975, but they froze it because they said wasn't no black qualified. So Judge Nixon said, if there's no black qualified, then we're going to cut the federal money off. They decided to cut the money off until 1978. They couldn't afford it anymore. So they had to put a school on. So they advised, send us your best. We'll send them back home to you. And that's why I say I'm not in the first class. I'm not the first black. I want to get this understood. Not the first black to get on. I represent the first black class, predominantly black class.
Okay.
That finished, that started the way.
Okay, but you was the first black out of Copiah County.
Yes, sir.
At what point did you retire from the Mississippi Highway Patrol?
1995. I was there 21.6.
During your 21 years and 6 months of service as a Mississippi Highway Patrolman, can you remember anything that stands out?
Oh, every day by day stood out. It was something new for us every day. It was something that we hadn't done. Anytime that you would stop a individual, and that individual would just plainly ask you, what you stopped me for, boy? And you will look at your uniform and you will be clean and sparkling and shining, and you say, boy, my name is Sergeant, Corporal, this or that. But, it was just, every day was a learning. If you kept an open mind, every day was a learning experience.
Almost a year later, On May 22nd of 1979, Kenneth Ramsey, who had been chief deputy for a number of years, was appointed sheriff of Copiah County by an all-white board of supervisors after Sheriff Earl Guest resigned. Ramsey is the first black to ever hold a major office in Copiah County since Reconstruction, according to the Copiah County Research of Courthouse Records, and is the first black sheriff in the state of Mississippi. 3 months after Bernier was appointed sheriff of Copiah County, Frank Davis was elected sheriff of Claiborne County, making him the second black sheriff in the state of Mississippi. Chief Deputy Ramsey assured the board he is not and will not be a candidate for sheriff in the upcoming election, and will do a fair and impartial job in law enforcement in all parts of the county.
I said, okay, let me introduce two more politicians, Alderman Henry Banks back there, and Alderman Lonnie McKenzie. They also happen to be my best two aldermen.
In 1981, Lonnie McKenzie and Henry Banks were the first blacks elected officials to serve as aldermen for the city of Hazlehurst. McKenzie served as Alderman Ward 3, Banks as Alderman Ward 4. Both McKenzie and Banks served 24 years as aldermen. In 1983, Lily V. McKenzie was sworn in as District 1 Copiah County Election Commissioner, replacing Frank Pickering, who had resigned. Later, she became the first black elected as Copiah County Election Commissioner. She later became the first black elected to the Copiah County Justice Court Post 1. She served 32 years as Justice Court Judge Post 1 until her retirement on March 31st, 2017. At the time of her retirement, Judge Lily V. McKenzie was the longest-serving elected official in Copiah County. Gregory Holloway Senior was elected to the Mississippi House of Representatives District 76 in 1999. He is the first black from Copiah County to be elected in this position and is the longest serving. After becoming one of the first blacks to serve as alderman, Henry Banks decided to give up his seat to run for the mayor's chair in the upcoming election on May 3, 2005. The race was close between longtime incumbent Randy Kimball with 654 votes and challenger Henry Banks with 693. But in a runoff election on May 17, 2005, official election results were finalized 2 days later, confirming Banks' victory of 718 votes over incumbent Randy Kimball's vote of 666, making Henry Banks the first African American ever to be mayor of Hazlehurst. But Henry Banks wasn't the only one making history in Hazlehurst in 2005. Ward 3 gets a new alderman. NAACP President Shirley Sandersford defeated incumbent Lonnie McKenzie, who had served 24 years in a runoff for the seat, with a vote of 231 to 136, making Sandersford the first woman and first African American to be alderman, or should I say alderwoman, of Hazlehurst. Shirley went on to defeat incumbent Henry Banks in 2017 for the mayor's seat with a vote of 712 to 372, making her the first female and first African American to be the mayor of Hazlehurst.
They have told me to tell her I am their mayor of the city of Hazlehurst.
April 7th of 2021, Sandersford was defeated by Kenneth Ramsey for the mayor's seat with a vote of 490 to 420. Kenneth Ramsey is the son of Kenneth Ramsey Senior, who was the first black sheriff of Copiah County in the state of Mississippi back in 1979. And it all started on this day, August 8, back in 1967, when 4 black men, Johnny O. Chase Sr., Ellis Blackwell, Robert Watson, and Houston Collins Sr. ran for public office in Copiah County, Hazlehurst, Mississippi. For more information on some of the things that we talked about and more, check out this book, The Many Faces, History of Hazlehurst, edited by Daphne Foster. It includes the early history, the first civil rights movement in Hazlehurst, the historical district, schools, businesses, churches, local legends like Princess Matthew, Johnny O. Chase, Carol Hood, Walter Washington, Marvin Manor, Mel Jones, Louis Tillman, Robert Johnson, Don Lindsay Dixon, and more. And also, check out the documentary, The Boy with the Pop Bottle on His Head, Parts 1 and 2.
Something bad is going to happen in this town.
And we went sailing through there.
People just crying, hollering. I know something was wrong. The further I got up the road, the worse it got. I was doing the same thing they were doing in tears.
Everybody was just cramming into the hospital.
Then everybody looked for the little boy. But the little boy couldn't be found.
Yeah.
It's an honor to meet you.
Yeah.
And to talk to you. And to know that you're still alive.
To see both documentaries, just go to realhouse.org. Put my name, Steve Collins, in the search bar. Click on the documentary you would like to see. Stroll down and click on Rent or Buy. Sign in by creating an account, after which follow instructions. I'm Steve Collins, and thank you for watching another Copiah County, Hazlehurst, Mississippi Black History Month.